Gen Z were abducted, the substantive Chief Justice did not empanel a single bench to sit on Saturday or on Sunday. That is why but the context in which this matter must be viewed. My Lord, there are certain authorities. My learned colleagues will go through them. But I need to mention at least two things. My Lord, of course, the arguments would be made. I think there was some time back, probably in the Okiya Omtata case, my learned colleague will clarify, where the Deputy Chief Justice, the same Deputy Chief Justice, made an appointment. There was no substantive Chief Justice at that time. There was a decision that was saying, this is administrative. That decision is not binding. But, my Lord, more importantly, now that this issue is arising directly, this court must retire, make a very reasoned decisions to settle this issue. Whether in every other case in which the Constitution or statute says so and so will do this, if that so and so does not do it without failure, the High Courts and the Court of Appeal have always held there was no jurisdiction. An order of certiorari have always issued. It shouldn't be different in this particular matter, because the power belongs to the Chief Justice. Now, the second issue is a decision, I believe, one of you was involved, and I believe it is a case of Okonkwo Omtata versus JSC, and the decision in that decision was that at paragraph 29 to 38, basically it says that where there is a substantive Chief Justice who is a state officer, she does not cease to be a Chief Justice in this era of technology. And accordingly, the Chief Justice, the CJ, does not have authority under the constitutions to assign roles assigned to that office. So that, my Lord, in this case, even assuming that in writing the Chief Justice had assigned this role to the deputy, and that has not been alleged, it would still not be good enough, because wherever that the good Chief Justice might be, this is something that she could have done as expected her. And the people of Kenya obviously would be interested because of the nature of this matter. Why would the Chief Justice abdicate to do her job and let her deputy to do her job in a manner that aggrieves the petitioners? That is an important question, because it is the job of the Chief Justice. There is a huge mandate that is given by the Chief Justice. Do your job with the entire authority that your office carries. So it cannot just be that it is for the Deputy Chief Justice who has usurped. It is also abdication. What would be the basis for abdication? The Chief Justice not to do their job. The other case of, just 1 minute, 1 second. The other case of, I think my learned colleagues, so that it can be fast, I don't want people to knock me. My learned friend can do her. Let him do his 10 minutes, then he can do his 10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very kindly, my lords, my lady. I'll only highlight a few issues which are legal. I'll move from Article 1 of the Constitution, your lordships. That Article 1 has created organs of government. Among them is the organ of the judiciary. And it has clearly provided, your lordship, that the people of Kenya, in exercise of their sovereignty, they have delegated their powers to those organs. In this case, the power under Article 165, Clause 4, is exclusively delegated to the Chief Justice. Your lordship, in administrative law, it's right that a person who enjoys delegated powers cannot further delegate those particular powers. In this case, in this circumstance, your lordship, it is not known to the petitioners under what circumstances the Chief Justice may have delegated these powers to the Deputy Chief Justice. It is our humble submission, your lordship, that the powers and the functions under Article 1 are not capable of being delegated. Further to that, Your Lordship, you seek leave under Article 159 of the Constitution, which provides that, Your Lordship, that judicial power is derived from the people and shall be exercised by the courts and tribunals established by this Constitution for and on behalf of the people. That article, again, clearly indicates that this power under Article 165, Clause 4 is not capable of being delegated. How about, Your Lordship? In the Constitution, Your Lordship, I invite you to look at Article 260 of the Constitution. It provides if a function has been created to be executed by a particular organ, it is only that organ that is capable of executing that particular function. And for the question of further delegating that particular function cannot arise so as to say that the Deputy Chief Justice had the constitutional mandate to appoint this bench to adjudicate over these particular files. Your Lordship, we have put up a case that the Deputy Chief Justice has not only violated the Constitution, but also violated the rights of the petitioners to be heard under Article 50 of the Constitution. When they moved to appoint a bench of this, the bench, and failed to notify the parties herein as evidenced by the counsel appearing for the petitioner in petition number 14, it tells Your Lordship that the expediency for which it was done was so as to meet the objective of setting aside the orders that were granted by your brother Justice Mwongo and your brother Justice Mwita. Your Lordship, when you retire to make a ruling of our application, it is important that you pay serious attention to paragraph 12 of our affidavit, paragraph 21 again of the affidavit, paragraph 22 again, and also paragraph 27. And then you might want to ask yourself, under section 10 of the High Court Organizations, High Court Administration Organization Act, how, under what circumstances the Chief Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice, authorize you to sit on a Saturday? Under what circumstances did the Chief Justice herself, Deputy Chief Justice herself, sit at night, in the wee hours of the night, ungodly hours, and constituted this bench? Your Lordship, it's our humble submissions that Article 10 has only arrogated that function, again, exclusively to the Chief Justice. And that the Deputy Chief Justice has no power under Section 10 of the High Court Organization and Administration Act to order you or to authorize you to sit on an odd day like that or the Saturday. Your Lordship, permit me to draw your attention again to the case of Kia Omtata. When you retire and the judgment will be highlighted by my learned friend, it is of importance, Your Lordship, that you look at paragraph 192 of that judgment. It has given the circumstances under which the Deputy Chief Justice can act in the absence of the Chief Justice. One is if the Chief Justice is indisposed, if he resigns, if he is dead, or if he is ordered out of office. The question of leave, to which we are submitting without knowledge whether that is the circumstance that led to the allocation of powers by the Chief Justice, is not one of the grounds or reasons that the Chief Justice can exercise, the Deputy Chief Justice can exercise the exclusive powers meant for the Chief Justice. Finally, Your Lordship, all these averments contained in our affidavit have not been controverted by the respondents through a replying affidavit. They have only filed the grounds of opposition, to which they shall bring to your attention the case of Contela, which has been distinguished by the case of Okia Omtata. The grounds contained in our affidavit, Your Lordship, are uncontroverted and they must be admitted as such. I beg to rest my case.
probably the most prolific litigator in the history of Kenya. So we don't know which of many cases are you referring to.
I will certainly be addressing my senior at the bar and senior at the academy, Professor Gideon Muigai. It's always a pleasure being with him in court. A man or woman who plants a tree, not knowing fully well that they will not sit in its shade, knows the meaning of life. You sit today in such an epochal moment that what you do here has significant ramifications for the Republic of Kenya. It is for you and the court to rise to the occasion. This court has defined the Constitution as a transformative constitution. And this was done by this very court, differently seated in the BBI case, David Ndii and others, versus the Attorney General. And this is what the court said about the Constitution 2010. It is a constitution of a transformative character. And this transformative character of the Constitution induces large-scale social change, including the character and conduct of politics. That the Constitution bears an internal theory of interpretation. The starting point for discerning that internal theory is Article 259 of the Constitution. That formalistic approaches to constitutional interpretation are not favored. And lastly, that the Constitution has provided for its own theory to protect its values, objects, and purposes. That is what is before you as a court today, that you are supposed to maintain that innate character of this Constitution as a transformative charter. The other side has filed grounds of opposition, and in their grounds of opposition, they raise a case, Lorna Conchela and others versus the Chief Justice. That was the grounds of opposition by the Attorney General. And in that case, this High Court said that the power to appoint a bench is administrative, and that that power can be performed by the Deputy Chief Justice in limited, constricted circumstances. So that the normative holder, the Chief Justice, performs it, but the Deputy Chief Justice has to perform it in certain limited circumstances. Those limited circumstances have to be demonstrable. That is Conchela. Your Lordship Justice Murima, sitting in Okoiti versus JSC and another petition, E408-2020, 2021 EKLR, I believe that is what Professor Gideon Muigai was asking about. Paragraph 29 to 38. Justice Murima finds that the authority under Article 165.4 is a constitutional authority, such that that authority cannot be delegated by the Chief Justice, because the Chief Justice does not cease to be a state officer, even on leave. We have another authority here, Petition 31 of 2013, Kenya Medical Research Institute versus the Attorney General. This is found at 2014 EKLR at paragraph 37. Kenya Medical Research Institute versus the Attorney General and three others, 2014 EKLR. This case at paragraph 37 says this, that the Chief Justice and the
Hello guys, today I'll show you how I was able to make $2,000 in profit trading the Forex market in under 4 hours. And just for context, I'm trading with prop firms. So this is one of my accounts. As you know, I have about 3 funded accounts on Funded Next. I took that capital. If I take you to my trading overview under the analytics, you'll notice that I've only taken one trade since the account was scaled up. And in this account, 1% risk is about $700, meaning with a 3R, I'm expecting to return about $2,100. Now, if you check, this is the setup. I took it on September 23rd, and I returned exactly $2,000, which is roughly about 2.8%. However, because of the commission, as you can see, it only reflected $1,983. So the same setup on 23rd of September, if I take you to my trading view, you'll come and see I had the setup here. Entry at about 12 p.m. my time is when I executed the buy setup, and it ended up closing at about 3:45 my time. So that's exactly 3 hours 45 minutes, and I had hit my take profit. And as I make this video, I wouldn't like to mislead anyone. In as much as I made this profit within just 4 hours time, I'm not trying to portray trading as a get-rich-quick scheme. So if some of you are new here, I've been trading the Forex market for a long time. I'm currently in my 7th year, so I have a lot of experience in the market. I've built a strategy, I've built a system which works. I've already done. So I go back to September 23rd, which was on a Monday. And the most important thing before I decide whether I'm buying or selling is to identify the buyers. In that we have a bullish candle on the daily time frame. You might see buyers coming in for a few days. So after seeing this previous day closing bullish on Friday, the next day, which is now Monday, that was the 23rd of September, I was anticipating a possibility of the buyers trying to push price higher. Now remember, my goal is not to be right on the long-term direction, because as you will notice by the time I'm done with this analysis, in fact, that day ended up finishing with a bearish candle. But what matters is I can get my intraday setup. My setup is very short-term. I'm only looking for a setup with a 15 pip stop and a 45 pip target. So even if the market ends up selling that day, as long as I know I was following my plan, I was respecting my entry criteria, and I got my 1:3 reward setup. That's the most important thing. So I'm a very short-term trader. I'm not trying to make long-term predictions in the market. And for me, that's what I have found to be working with the experience I've gathered in the market. So without losing focus, let's mark the next day, which is 23rd of September. This is when we are now going to look for the setup on the lower time frame. Another price action mechanism that I always use is, if the previous day closed bullish, I always want my entries to be at least somewhere from the open and where the body was and above. For instance, if I'm looking for my entry on the lower time frame, I want it to be within this previous day's body where we had the momentum. If somehow on the lower time frame I find my entry below the previous day's candlesticks open, there's a high chance the daily candle will have been a bearish engulfing. So for my setups to be of high probability, I always make sure I mark the previous day's open so that I look for entries only above that level. So when you look at my chart, you'll notice I always have this line to mark the previous day's open. Then you move to the next day, which is now Monday. We head to the lower time frame. This is now when we are looking for our setup. When I head on to Monday, my trading day usually starts at about 6 a.m. my time. These are things I've backtested just to make sure I'm getting setups at the right time. So I won't be interested in the market until 6 a.m. So we can play the candles until 6 a.m. There we go. So even before I check my setup, I have to check the economic calendar. Now, as I've told you, as a short-term trader, for me, I've found trading whenever we have high impact news to be very chaotic. My setups misbehave. There is very little you can do in terms of controlling your setup because the markets can do anything. So I'm a very huge fan of trading whenever we don't have crazy fundamentals. And again, we have a lot of red folder news. So the fundamentals that I look for most of the time are CPI, PPI, interest rates. So if you look on the calendar that day, there was none of those fundamentals. If we had CPI, PPI, interest rate, then if I find the perfect setup, I won't take it, because I don't have an edge trading during such conditions. That's why as a trader, it's important to really know what is working for you, what is working for your system. Now, I've already confirmed the calendar is okay. The previous day candlestick was bullish. So we have that certainty that this current day should have some bullish momentum. And that being said, there are two things that I look for when my trading day is starting. Now, in the Forex market, you always have this series of, if the market is bullish, the market will do this expansion or the impulse move, then it will always do pullbacks. So what you'll notice is in any market that is trending, after a series of the market buying for a long time, it must have a retracement before it continues to go up most of the time. Now that being said, when I wake up in the morning, I try to look and check, is the market at a place where it's been buying for a long time, or by the time I'm waking up, has the market done a pullback? So if by the time I'm waking up, the market has already done a pullback or a retracement, then I get my entry confirmation, I'll take that setup. But if I wake up in the morning and I find this market has already been buying for a significant number of pips without a nice retracement, I won't take any setup until I find a reasonable pullback. And again, based on my back testing, I've already defined what a reasonable pullback looks like to me. And most of the time, I just want it to come and get to key levels in the market and cover some distance just to offset this bullish imbalance. Now, if you look, this impulse price had bought for about 191 pips. Now, for someone who's looking for a 45 pip trade, if the market has bought for 191 pips, that is a lot. So if I'm looking for a 45 pip trade, I'd rather wait for a pullback before I can take my setups. And again, these are things you can study in the market. Just look at price in the past and you'll notice whenever it's going up, if you find a time when price has bought for a while, expect it to offset some of the bullish imbalance to do some correction before it can continue going up. Same thing here. It tried to offset the imbalance, went up, came back down, went up further, again tries to offset some of the bullish imbalance here, same thing here. So anytime I find the market has bought for a long time, it only makes sense that there is a high chance I might see it trying to offset some bullish imbalance before it can continue going upwards, which is the same thing as doing a retracement. Because whenever buyers have taken control in the market for a long time, you'll always see the opposite party, which is sellers, trying to also do some correction move in the market. But there are times when I might wait for the pullback and it doesn't happen. In that case, I won't take the setup. If it actually goes to my target and I never got the retracement first, well and good. Remember, I'm not trying to force setups. That's why if you've seen my journal, sometimes in a month I even have only 3 or 4 trades because I'm very patient and I'm only waiting for the setup that will completely fall in line with what I'm looking for. Anything that is close to that but doesn't meet my exact entry criteria, I don't risk. Now, that being said, we have to wait for a pullback. Now, I'll play the candles for you to see what happened next in this market. And as I'm looking for a pullback, the more the market pulls back, for example, right now, as you can see, already we've now had some reasonable pullback. So after I've seen that pullback coming in the market, the next thing I'll be watching for is the market to give me a W pattern, which is the same thing as a double bottom. The reason why I'm looking for a double bottom is simple. My bias is already bullish. I'm expecting this market to continue buying. However, I want to look for signs first that it's going to buy. And the first sign is to make sure I'm looking for my buy at the right level. Now, if I take a buy entry up here, this is not a perfect level to take a buy entry. There's a very high chance you're going to get stopped out if you take your trade up here. But then if I wait for the market to come and do pullback somewhere down here, then I now look for my W pattern, which signifies that we're about to see buyers, reversing the price to being bullish. Then that's a great sign for me to be taking my setup. And after looking for my W pattern, I check the previous 1 hour momentum. So the previous 1 hour candle must show signs of bulls in the market. Even if I get the perfect pattern happening at a key level, but then the previous 1 hour candle is showing me sales momentum, or rather is a bearish candle, then I won't be fancying that setup. So now that I've already seen my pullback, I'll be keen on looking for potential W patterns. And for context, let me just draw the pattern here so that in case it happens, you'll be able to notice how that pattern looks like, something like this. Now, the pattern can either be perfect or it can have one of the bottoms being lower than the other. It could be the first bottom could be lower, or the second bottom could also be lower. Regardless of how it looks like, it's still a W pattern. So let's play the candles. Market is still dropping. We now have a buy. We have a sell. We have another sell candle. I'm trying to look for a W pattern. Let me even show you how you can identify them in the real market conditions. See, right now, we had a sell here. We've had a buy, we've had a sell, and currently we are having another buy. So we are almost forming a W, only that, according to my rules, it must close above the neckline. So if you find any candle that closes above this neckline, then we now have our perfect W. But at the moment, this isn't perfect because it hasn't closed above the neckline. So we continue playing our candles as we have in mind. This is what we are looking for. And there we go. The next candle has completed the W. Now, let me draw it for you, so that you can see how I identify these patterns real time. This is a sell. This is a bullish candle. When we have 2 bearish candlesticks, I take them as the same momentum because they are heading to the same side. And when you have 2 bullish or 3, I take them as the same momentum because they are heading to the same side. Now, remember I told you the most important thing was what? That this candle should close above the neckline. Now, let's zoom in further to confirm. Has this candle closed above this middle part, which is the neckline? If I check, clearly it has closed above the neckline. So now we do have our W pattern, and if I can just extract this pattern from here, you'll actually notice it is a very similar thing to what we have here. Only that this one is tiny, but if you expand it, it's just a similar thing. So now after finding my W pattern, I wait for price to come and pull back to this middle part. And when it does a pullback, I want to confirm the previous 1 hour candle has closed bullish. And if so, I'll be looking for a bullish continuation. So let's come back to our chart. The candlestick has closed at exactly, this candlestick is 11:45, so meaning it closed at about 12. So the next candle is opening at immediately 12. So when the 12 candlestick is opening, I'm expecting price to come and do what? Retest this middle part of the neckline. And as it comes to retest, the only confirmation I want now is that the previous 1 hour was bullish. So I'll now go and put my pending order here. The neckline, I'm waiting for price to come and pull back here with